I'm going to keep this straightforward because I know a lot of you are sitting at your desks wondering if the Dell Latitude 5450 is really worth the money, or if you'll end up with a machine that looks great on paper but falls short when you actually need it to work. You've probably read a dozen spec sheets and watched a few unboxing videos that sound a lot like a sales pitch. What you need is a clear picture of how this laptop behaves in a real-world office, in a coffee shop, or even on a cramped airplane tray. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's walk through the things that matter most when you're deciding whether to spend a few $100 on a refurbished, upgraded Dell. First, let's talk about the kind of day a professional might have. Imagine you start the morning in a corporate office, fire up a few Windows 11 professional apps, hop onto a Teams call, and then head out to a client site where you'll be running a handful of browser-based dashboards while also pulling up some PDFs. Later you'll need to hop on a train, pull up a spreadsheet, and maybe edit a PowerPoint deck in the evening. The Latitude 5450 advertises a portable power vibe, and the real question is whether it can sustain that flow without you constantly hunting for a wall outlet or watching the battery dip into the red. The biggest practical strength here is the combination of the Intel Core Ultra 7155U vPro processor with 32GB of DDR5 RAM. In my testing, the processor kept up with multi-tab browsing, a few background office processes, and a light video editing task without the kind of lag you sometimes see on older business laptops. The 32GB of RAM eliminates the typical "I'm out of memory" pop-ups that can be a real productivity killer, especially when you have a lot of tabs or a large Excel file open. Because the RAM is DDR5, you notice a modest boost in responsiveness when you switch between apps. Though you won't feel like you're using a high-end gaming machine, it's just noticeably smoother than a 16GB setup would be. The 1TB SSD is another hidden value driver. You get plenty of room for a full Windows 11 professional install, all your work files, a local backup of critical documents, and even a few personal media files without having to think about external drives. The SSD's read/write speeds are fast enough that opening a 200-page PDF takes a split second, and copying a large folder of project assets does install other tasks. That speed translates directly into less waiting time during busy moments. Now, let's get into the display and webcam, because those are the bits that affect your data-face interactions. The 14-inch FHD IPS panel delivers a crisp, bright image that's comfortable for long reading sessions. The HDR tag is more of a marketing label than a cinema experience, but the panel does handle contrast well enough that white backgrounds stay truly white, not washed out. The IR webcam with a privacy shutter is a practical security feature. It's the kind of thing you can actually turn off physically, which gives peace of mind when you're on a video call from a public space. You won't be surprised by a grainy image. The webcam is clear enough for professional meetings, and the shutter makes it easy to assure clients that you're not being watched when the camera is off. Connectivity is where a lot of business laptops either shine or stumble, and the Latitude 5450 keeps it simple but functional. You have a good selection of USB-A ports, an HDMI output for a second monitor, and the usual Ethernet jack for wired networks, a rarity on some newer Ultrabooks. The Backlit keyboard is a modest but welcome inclusion. It lets you type in dim environments without hunting for the keycaps. One practical downside is the lack of Thunderbolt support. If your workflow relies on docking stations that use Thunderbolt 4, you'll need to stick with a USB-C hub or consider a different model. For most office environments, the available ports cover the basics, but it's something to flag if you have a high-bandwidth peripheral like an external GPU or fast RAID storage. Battery life is always the elephant in the room. With the Core Ultra 7 and 32GB of RAM, the laptop manages about 7 to 8 hours of mixed usage, roughly a morning of meetings, some document work, and a light web browse session. That's enough to get you through a typical workday if you're disciplined about power settings, but it's not going to survive a full day of heavy video streaming or intensive data analysis without a quick top-up. The upside is the battery drains predictably, so you can plan your charging breaks without the surprise of a sudden shutdown. Who should buy this machine? If you're a field consultant, a project manager who moves between offices, or a remote worker who needs a reliable Windows 11 professional environment, the Latitude 5450 checks a lot of boxes. Its vPro capability also means you can take advantage of remote management tools, which,